am I without the pain, the suffering, the wounds, the trauma, the darkness, the shadows? Who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? Where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to live without all of that? These are all the things I had to ask myself when I started healing, when I decided enough was enough, when I decided that it was time to take things into my own hands and start working on things, start releasing and letting go, and no longer holding on to the wounds, the stories, the trauma, the darkness, my shadow, whatever was holding me still, whatever was holding me in place. I decided it was time to start letting it go. And it didn't happen, of course, overnight. It didn't happen like right away. It took some time, it took some healing, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of reconstructing myself. So as many of you guys probably know, I started the medicine wheel. I decided I was going to start teaching the medicine wheel. And as in doing, I hopped onto the medicine wheel. So I was always a direction ahead of my students. Now that I'm taking the advanced shaman course, I'm back in the South again, but not as drastic as the medicine wheel. This is a different type of going into the South and doing the work and the healing. So essentially in the South, we work with Sachi Mama, Great Serpent. We learn to let go of those stories, shed the skin, the wounds, the things that are holding us in place. We learn to let that stuff go. I will tell you guys that when I started the medicine wheel, when I decided that enough was enough, I was done playing victim. At that time, I found myself in a drama triangle where I was the victim. So in a drama triangle, we have the victim, the perpetrator, and the rescuer, and I was the victim. And I said, no, I don't want to be the victim. I don't want to be the perpetrator. I don't want to be the rescuer. I don't want to be the hero. I'm not the hero. I want to be me. Me. I want to find peace and happiness in this life. And recently talking to my shaman, I was like, maybe that is my destiny. Maybe that is my purpose, is to find that peace and that happiness. Because when I do, imagine what could come forward when I finally do get to move back to the East Coast, and when I finally do get, you know, to open my own brick and mortar, whatever my dreams and my goals are. And I found that peace and that joy even in the darkest of places, even in a place that's full of chaos and drama and just all sorts of things. And I find that peace in that, and I find the peace in the chaos. Imagine how beautiful that stuff is gonna be. Imagine when I go home and everybody just welcomes me with open arms and open hearts, and I have an open heart and open arms, and I get to go and just be hugged and embraced also, and I get to hug and embrace everybody at the same time. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So when I started the South, like I said, I was in that drama triangle, and I was like, okay, enough's enough. It's time to let this stuff go. We can't hold on to this stuff. We can't keep carrying these stories in our heads and allowing it to create that friction and that tension and the headache. Oh man, does it create a headache. And it's time to let that stuff go so that we can move on. I had to face a lot of truths. And in the South, you have to face some hard realities. Some of it is, oh, I allowed this just to create my life. I allowed all these things to happen, you know, or some of it is facing yourself, you know, okay, I really and truly created these stories because it was easier to live in that darkness. A lot of times, people, they'll hold on to their darkness, they'll hold on to the wounds, they'll hold on to the stuff because, you know what, it's easier to live in that. It's easier to live with the wounds than to face the truth. But there's no beauty in it. There's no healing, and you're constantly living a cycle and over and over and over and over again. For me, it was having to start over because I kept running. And I couldn't run anymore. I was like, my guides literally were like, you're not running. Good luck. Yeah, we're going to make sure you have no choice to run. You cannot run. You literally have to stay where you're at. And you have to find the peace and the happiness in the chaos and the darkness. And I'm grateful for that. Did it suck? Did I literally want to scream and yell and go, no, I want to be back on the East Coast. I miss the ocean. I miss the beach. I miss the trees. I miss the green. I miss the friends. I miss the love. I miss all of that stuff. Yes. I wanted to scream and yell. But in them doing that, in me having to stay put, I I have learned so much, and I have healed so much, and I have found myself in even the darkest of moments, and I have learned my strength. I've learned how strong I really am, and there's something absolutely beautiful in learning that strength and just being able to say, you know what, I shed that old story. I shed that skin. I'm no longer that person. I am not that person I was when Everly was born. Let me tell you, when she was born, I was scared. I was alone. I was in a house all by myself. Like, bless my uncle's heart. Like, he you know, but he works a full-time job. That man works like 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, okay? I don't know how he does it, but he does. And so he couldn't, you know, like, he can't. He has a full-time job. So I was completely alone with this newborn baby, and you know, just having a C-section, and I was so scared, and I was so alone, and I didn't know which direction to go, and I almost ran again. I almost did it again. I almost ran. I was so close to running. And then again, you know, later on, a couple months later, I almost ran to Georgia. I was like, no, I'm done. You know, I was tired of how a particular person was treating me. I was tired of always having to walk on eggshells. I was just over it, and I just, you know, I was allowing all these things just to become, and I was becoming the victim, and I almost ran again. And I had to sit down when I got in the South and see how many times I've ran. How many times I have had the opportunity to stay, and instead I ran. When I ran from South Carolina, you know, I had the opportunity to stay. My guides literally were like, here, we're going to let you out of it. Like, you do not have to go to Arizona. You do not have to leave. We are going to let you out of it. And I didn't do it. I ran. Instead of facing the truth, instead of honoring my place there, instead of believing in myself, instead of stepping into my confidence, instead of seeing what I had created, I ran. So nothing comes from that. Nothing beautiful comes from any of that. And that's what we get to see in the South. We rip that skin off, we throw it down on the ground, we give it back to Mother Earth, and we say enough with these stories. And the stories that I created, which is absolutely funny, I'm going to tell you guys one of my affirmations that I just put into one of my kuyas, which is the stones that we use in the medicine wheel. It is, I am building a strong foundation for my future. Take a pause for a moment. Because in putting that affirmation out there, the universe says, bet. The universe literally said, bet. Watch this. And in doing that, I had to destroy the foundation that I was currently on. That foundation had to be ripped apart. It was like the tower moment in tarot, where the foundation just crumbled apart. And I had to see so many truths, and what I had allowed to happen, and where I was, and all of these events. And I had to face everything. But you want to know what? In doing that, and facing that, and you know, seeing the reality and seeing the truth of the situations and just my part in it, I've been able to start to build that strong foundation. I've been able to reach back out to my shaman and start the advanced shaman course. I've been able to reach out to friends and have that healthy communication instead of being just absolutely pushed back and, oh, how do you want to do this, or yelled at, or any of that stuff. It's loving and kind and beautiful, and I've seen that, and I've gotten that that support because I'm building that strong foundation. But I had to rip that foundation down first because I chose such a powerful affirmation. Literally, the universe said, oh, bet, let's do this. Yes. So sometimes you gotta be careful about the affirmations that you do choose, because I'm telling you guys, universe has jokes sometimes, but they're beautiful jokes, and I'm so glad for it. I'm so happy for it. I am happier now than I've been in a long time, and a lot of that has had to unwire some brainwashing that was happening for the last couple of years. I've had to take that brainwashing and completely, almost like a spider web, just start to unravel it and start to see some very hard truths and some very hard realities. You know, and then as I moved into the West, you literally have to face yourself. That's where you work on your shadow work. And when I said enough was enough, when I said the suffering was done, when I said I don't want to do this anymore, I am not my stories, I'm not my wounds, I'm not my trauma, and I moved into the West, that is really when some hard truths hit. I had to look myself in the mirror and I had to ask myself, am I in love with myself? Do I love my situation? Do I love me? Can I even face myself in the mirror? Can I even look at myself? And I realized I wasn't even looking at myself in the mirror. I was not looking at her. I didn't look myself in the eyes. The one person in this entire world that you cannot lie to is yourself. So if you cannot look yourself in the mirror, if you cannot say, damn girl, you got this, or boy, if you can't do any of that, if you cannot look at yourself and say, I love you, then you got some shadow work to do. If another person is triggering you, if another person is being a mirror, then you've got some shadow work to do. And there is something absolutely beautiful in that. I know that I've talked about shadow work. I've already gone into it. I have a video, podcast on it. So I think it actually says shadow work. So go watch that. We're not going to go fully into detail here. But that is where the shadow work is. And then I had to start doing some ancestral healing again. You know, I didn't realize I had these mother wounds that were still within me. I even was angry at my grandpa for dying. He, you know what? I was so upset with him, but I wasn't as upset with him as I was with his ex-wife for taking him away from us. And, you know, I thank my guides also for putting me here in Arizona in this rough, difficult situation, because I've had to heal that relationship with his ex-wife. I don't have a choice, you know? That is my uncle and my aunt's mom. So I have to be around her. I have to talk to her. And I've learned to love her and appreciate her. And I've seen how much she's trying. And I've learned to heal that within myself also. Is she a direct grandparent of mine? No. But is there still healing that needed to be done? Yes, most definitely. And now, you know, as we move into the north, as my students even move into the north, I got to see a lot of just beauty that was around me. That's where I started to see the beauty. I started to drink from the sweet nectar of life. I started to see beautiful things. That's where I also began to take the advanced shaman course. So again, you know, and then I'm moving into the east as my students move into the north. So in the east now I get to work on that destiny retrieval, on stepping into my destiny, on becoming my truth. So stepping into the peace and the happiness, even in the chaos. Is the universe going to send me lessons? Yeah. But can I work through them now? Yes, because I've done it before. Am I going to be a little bit more careful when I create my affirmations? Probably, but I also know that that one powerful affirmation created such a beautiful healing and just destruction to build something new. Sometimes if the foundation is crumbling, you can't build on top of it. You cannot continue to build on top of a crumbling foundation. You know, look at forest fires. From those forest fires, we also get regrowth, rebirth. So sometimes things have to burn to allow new things to be born, to allow that rebirth to happen. So I went through a very strong rebirth at the same time, and it's absolutely beautiful. What happens when you decide to work on yourself? You find yourself. You find who you're supposed to be. You find beauty within yourself. You take off the many masks that you wear and you say, no, this is who I am. If you don't like me, there's the door. I don't really care. You can take those masks off and start to be your true authentic self. So again, you become your truth, who you're supposed to be. You rip those masks off. Carrying those masks around and keeping yourself hidden behind them doesn't help you. It doesn't create any beauty within yourself. All it does is keep you from who you're supposed to be. It keeps you from your purpose, from your destiny. You don't have to follow anybody. If somebody comes to you and says you have to do this, or your guides are telling you to do this, no, you don't. You still have free will. Yes, when spirit calls, we come, but we still have free will, you know? And if it doesn't resonate, then don't do it. And these are all the things that have been unraveling and coming forward as I decided that I was done. I was absolutely done. I will tell you guys that this summer probably, I found myself in the most unhealthy and not happy situations ever. I was starting to live, and then by October, you know, I was living in a fight or flight life. Like that's just, that was it. I was fight or flight all the time. And I was crying myself to sleep. I didn't want to be around a certain person because literally I just, every time I turned around, I was like, what the heck? But I noticed when I finally stood back, when I finally looked at myself, when I finally faced the truths, where I had played the victim in the drama triangle, I got to see the different faces that I was wearing. I got to see, you know, okay, where was I not being authentic with myself? You know, when I lived in South Carolina, I felt like I was being very authentic, but I wasn't being very authentic to myself, to who I was. I allowed people to walk all over me. I allowed my ex-girlfriend to come into my life and just create all sorts of chaos and tear things apart. And I allowed all of this stuff to happen until I couldn't do it anymore. Until I literally was sitting there going, I can't do this. I can't live life like this. This is not what life is supposed to be, you know? So I started doing the things that I needed to do for my family. I started doing what I needed to do to take care of my family, and then I started working on myself. I started, you know, I asked my therapist. I started seeing a therapist for postpartum depression, and I started asking her, I said, hey, can we start doing weekly sessions? And we started doing tapping therapy, EMDR, because I was done. I was like, get this stuff out of me. Like I said, I reached out to my shaman, and we had many conversations of just, you know, the reality of things. I reached out to a lot of different people, and I was met with love. I thought I was going to be met with a lot of friction and a lot of hate. Even Everly's sperm donor, when I reached out to him and I was like, hey, how are things going? I thought him, of all people, like I was going to get yelled at, and I was actually met with love and understanding and kindness and joy from everybody. That's healing. That's beautiful communication. There's something beautiful in that. And when you start to rip those layers apart, when you start to remove that and let go of the suffering and the pain and the trauma and the wounds and the stories, then you start to be met with kinder things. Beauty, abundance, manifesting, clarity, healing, oneness, creation, all of the stuff that you possibly could want. That's what you're going to be met with. So don't give yourself a hard time. If you feel like you're not on the right path, or you're like, oh my gosh, like these patterns keep happening and these lessons keep happening. I had to see the lessons. So for one thing, take a step back and ask yourself, what are the lessons I keep repeating? Well, for me, I had to keep starting over because I kept running. I didn't stay put. You know, I put down roots in South Carolina. I put down those roots. I had a beautiful home. I had a beautiful place to see clients. I had beautiful soul family. I had everything I could possibly want. And in a moment of getting scared, I ran. Because I was scared for just a moment. Instead of staying put and saying, okay, hold on. What do I need to work on? What do I need to let go of? What needs to be erased? And is this decision mine, or is it somebody else's? And now that I don't have that choice and I have to stay put, well, there's something beautiful in making those decisions on my own. It's scary, yes. Do I get freaked out sometimes? Oh, heck yeah. Because I'm still human. I might be a shaman, but I am still human. But in doing that, I have noticed a huge difference in my sessions with my clients. I have gotten back into drumming, which I'm so excited to share with you guys, some like drumming meditations, that kind of stuff. I've gotten back into music and my guitar. I opened my mesa back up, my own personal, like, I guess, like shamanic altar is pretty much what it is. My medicine bag. I connected with my kuyas again, my stones for each direction. I got back on the medicine wheel. I did all of the work. And now the beautiful part is, now that I've taken the pieces apart, now that I've ripped out, I've become the hollow bone, now the pieces get to come back together. and they are coming back together healed. They're not jagged, they're not sharp, they're not having to be sewed or glued or any of that stuff. They come back naturally, and they get to set into place as I need them to, as I continue on my journey. Somebody said this to me, maybe it's not all about the end game. Maybe it's about the journey along the way. Because what happens when you get to that end game? Are you done? Ask yourself that. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. I love you guys so very, very much. Give yourself some grace, some love, some kindness. If you're starting on your healing journey, remember to constantly give yourself some love, because you're gonna need it. But there is something beautiful in that deep, 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 deep nitty-gritty healing, where you go deep within yourself and you rip yourself apart so that you can allow the universe, spirit, yourself to put the pieces back together in a healed state, in an abundant state, in a beautiful state. I'll see you guys in my next episode. Bye, guys.